thing in the memorization, because especially for your FRQs, or like stuff, SAQs too, where it's all on cause and effect, and that's how you kind of add a lot of like sophistication to it a little bit too, and how all events take and time periods flow like a story. So it's kind of hard sometimes to make it you wanna understand it, because I mean it's just this happened, then this happened, then this happened, okay? So make it kind of more fun for yourself. Like I kind of like gaslit myself into understanding, because I did like, oh my gosh, this happened, and then you'll never guess, this caused this, and oh my gosh, they weren't happy about that. So I kind of like had to make it fun for myself and talked it through it that way. And then focus on key concepts and influences they have, and then it'll help with your body paragraphs. There. So for the FRQ, or I think it's like in DBQ kind of, so memorize, like, well actually more FRQ, memorizing the exact dates, it helps make your response more specific, but I think that the primary thing that helped me score higher on all fronts was knowing the general time periods and what events happened, like sometimes broadly, but also kind of understanding the depth to it, because the general time periods, because I kind of mentioned below that how Heimler's history kind of helps with this, because in their review videos it talks about in the periods like 1491 to 1607, it's like that's how it's kind of phrased on the exam, like how it was last year, where it talks about in the period blank blank blank. If you don't know the time periods, you're screwed, because that's how, like, I mean, it kind of talks about like you know it's like unit 8 or this or this. So I would just focus on time periods, which has like a common benefit. And then you have a blank sheet of paper for the exam, and I mean some people don't use it. I personally did. If you think you're gonna forget something, write it down, and it kind of transfers into my next thing, I think. So, as in the picture, I kind of made like acronyms kind of for how I remember the time period. So like, I mean, like in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, so then I know the first unit starts in 1491. Like I kind of, then I have my piece of paper. Okay, you can flip it. So it might be more useful to see like in the thing you posted. I don't know if it's very visible, but that's actually kind of what I wrote down on my piece of paper, and that is why I think I passed, like how I did as good as I did, because I made like general why I remembered the dates, because like even the first one, like I talked about Christopher Columbus, like 1492, it starts at 1491, and then like Jamestown I remembered like 1607, so I kind of just did that memorization. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I did personally, and I think that really helped. And I kind of got that basis off of Heimler History's videos. And then, speaking of which, so for review, as much as looking back at notes is important, quick recaps of ideas when you're on a time crunch, such as coming up very, very soon, are the review videos for each unit from Heimler's History. And what I did was the quick note method, which I kind of exemplified, is I watched the video and I took notes. Some of it actually made sense, some of them look like that. Because it's like that method where, you know, when you write things down, your brain like remembers it more, something like that. It worked apparently. So, and kind of like scribbling method where you just, if you're running out of time, I just started scribbling. So like when you'd be talking about this, like the unit, I'd just be scribbling stuff down. And then he has, I don't know if you guys talked about the before exam live streams. That was very useful. We'll just put it that way.
They're entertaining sometimes.
Yeah, and entertaining. They're definitely something.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yep.
Because those are next Wednesday and Thursday night. I got the links posted for that already for those
I
videos.
think those are definitely very
I
important to
think I
watch.
have that in there too.
Yeah. And then how do you know what you need to work on? Because that's very important. Because, I mean, as much as you might understand it when you're looking at notes in front of you, but on the exam, it's relied on your own words and talking to the essay prompt. Because if you can't physically say it by yourself and make yourself understand, how are you going to write a DBQ or FRQ? How are you going to do that if you can't even speak it to yourself? So I don't know if anyone saw it last year, but Sue's board was very very aggressive with stuff like that. That is, I did the whiteboard method, or you can do it in a notebook of just active recall. Just making concept maps like for each unit. I did this affected this, and how did this influence this? What time period was this? So it kind of very much looked like that. And it looked like I was losing my mind on the whiteboard in Sue's room. So yeah. And then that helps you review the units and events that might have been more difficult for you to do that on. And then, so stressing, that's why it's important to give yourself time. And don't procrastinate. Learn that the hard way. Like Molly probably saw, during our soccer game last year, I was literally like, this happened in this time period, and I'm on the field literally like, oh my gosh, this happened in this, and this happened in this, oh my gosh, APUSH, literally while playing soccer. So that was lovely. And then like I talked about the live streams 2 or 3 days before. And then make sure to participate in one of the practice exams during the Sundays or whatever days before the exam, so you know what to expect, while also figuring out things you need to review. And then, so kind of tying into that, time management. It sucks, but come in for the early practice exam, pop an energy drink, grab a snack, because it's big to understand your time management. And it's perfect time to reflect on what you need to work on. Do your studying beforehand, like it's the actual exam. Don't just come in and expect to just, oh, I need to work on this a little more, like just the whole thing. Make sure you know what you're talking about a little bit before you take the practice one, because, you know, yeah. Okay, you're up.
So I can take notes of this. So here's what I did the week for the exam. On Monday, and I'm just gonna pass this on to most of you what I did and just some advice. So on Monday, do most of the week's heavy reviewing on this day, and focus on what you absolutely need to do for the exam in order to make yourself get a higher score than you can, as well to just refine your skills as well. And then on Tuesday, do some more heavier reviewing, so you don't have to do it later on, because then you just load your brain with way too much information, and then you just can't recall it during the exam. And then also on this day, focus on what you really need to focus on. Like if you think you could do some more reviewing on Unit 5, then try to do that, and all that kind of stuff. And on Wednesday, try to check in on Heimlich stream, because this will give you a lot of information, allowing you to not put in too much effort reviewing. You just have to pay attention to what he's saying most of the time, and just get the general concepts of what he's saying. And then before that, I think it starts at 7 or something like that. So before that, try to do some polishing of like time management of FCQ, MCQ, LAQ, DBQ, all those stuff. And then on Thursday, try to check out Heimlich stream again, and do some very light reviewing, or almost no review at all, to try and just keep your brain fresh. And then just get good sleep for the exam day. That's one thing that really helps me stay really in the game for that exam. And then for the exam day, get a good breakfast and just be ready. And then during the exam, just keep yourself calm and try to keep yourself in a good state.
I was gonna say, Eli, or the first 2 days in particular, did you balance it between content and skill work in terms of like the heavier lifting for those 2 review days? Or was there more skills that you focused on one day and then content like the second day of your kind of?
I kind of just did a little bit of both.
Okay.
For Monday, I definitely focused on a more broader concept of things, because that was just a general understanding of trying to get everything in. And then Tuesday was more skills focused, and if I was still struggling on some content-based stuff, then I focused on that.
Okay.
And that's how I did it. Okay, so now we're just on to some of the exam structure and what you can prepare for with all of the exam. So MCQ, there's 55 questions in 55 minutes. It makes up 40% of your score. So this is going to be a big part of the exam. You have to try to focus on keeping it. I usually got in like a 30s range, and that was pretty good. That's what I want to aim for. And so most questions will come under, you've already done MCQs, you know, they go, usually 3 or 4 questions are related to a certain prompt, map, some kind of, occasionally, what is it called?
The primary source.
Propaganda or something,
Yeah.
occasionally.
Oh, yeah.
And so, as get get closer to the exam, try to practice your time management for MCQ, because that, basically one question per minute. And you have to focus on primary, or I think this is what, I did not do that. Okay, so what I really need, this is the next one. Okay, never mind. So focus on reading and analyzing the prompt and eliminating incorrect answers, and just keep practicing that so you know what answers will be the best. And also focus on what the prompt is saying as well. What is the best describing for that? And then notice that all the prompts included in the MCQ are not time-based. So they can be either from all the way from Unit 1 to Unit 9. They can be from anything. So when you're reviewing for this, focus on all of the units and just the broad context of all of them.
So that would be just like the questions are kind of all over the map, so get into that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then for actually taking the MCQ in the exam, keep an eye on the time. Even if you're about to run out of time, be sure to answer every single question. Because even if they're wrong, some of them still could be right. It's better than just leaving one unanswered. And then make sure to read the question before actually reading any of the prompt and source materials. Well, that's, never mind, that's the next one. Okay. Pay attention to most of the time period in the question, because usually when it says the author and the time period next to it, that can give you a lot of information of what time period it's in. Like it can kind of lead to events such as like the Civil War, American Revolution, and it can point out a lot of major events and that can really point out how the author really wrote it. And then also pay attention to the author as well. Because let's say you're focusing on Hamilton. He was a big Federalist. And he could definitely talk, if he wrote a specific primary source, he could definitely just talk down on, dang, what was that? That was the, let's see, what was it called? Let's see.
Yeah, anti-federalist, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I'd say just the anti-federalist, yeah.
So there could be a lot of bias in that. Try to focus and see if there's any bias in it, see if it's relevant, and all that. Okay, SAQ. So there's 3 questions in 40 minutes, 20% of your score. So definitely a little bit less, but still a big impact nonetheless. So question 1 usually includes 1 or 2 secondary sources to respond to. And question 2 usually includes a primary source that you have to respond to as well. And then you usually have to choose between either question 3 and 4, which focuses on a specific time prompt. And then for both question 1, question 2, they're usually in the period between 1754 and 1980. So be sure to study those events to really nail those 2 questions. And then question 3 usually focuses on the historical developments or processes between the years of 1491 and 1877. So focus on those. I'm studying for that. And then question 4 focuses on the historical developments or processes between 1865 and 2001. So for each of these, just review the time period of each one of them and really understand the main concepts of what they could possibly put on this to really just understand what you can do for all of these. Okay, so we're actually taking the exam with the SAQ. So again with MCQ, really making sure your time management is very crucial on this. As you know, roughly like 13 minutes per question. And to really counter that, use the T format of topic evidence analysis to really demonstrate to the AP readers that you really know what you're doing. And then as you're reading through, carefully analyze the source material given to you and use the skills that you've learned from the MCQs to ensure that you get the accurate information and every single detail for your analysis. And I'm pretty sure I accidentally put this in MCQ. Read the question before, or read the prompts and questions before you actually start reading the source given to you, because that will save you a lot of time. Because let's say the answers are based on like line 1, and you don't read that. Then you read the whole entire thing, you really could have just saved all of that time. Or if all 4 questions never really relate to the last like 2 paragraphs, of something, then you don't really need to focus on that. That was just a whole entire waste of time. And so, make sure you're direct and getting very straight to your point by using factual evidence and not adding extra text just to make it look longer. As the ICQ is not really about correct answers per se, but it's more about how you're able to back up your evidence, or back up your claims with solid evidence, as well as some good commentary as well in there as well to explain it. So for the DBQ and LEQ, there's 2 questions in 1 hour and 20 minutes with a 40% of your score, which is again pretty big, with DBQ accounting for roughly 25% of it, and LEQ for 15% of it. And so the DBQ usually consists of 7 documents offering various perspectives on a historical development or process, where you have to develop an argument supported by an analysis of historical events on the topics from 1754 and 1980. So for DBQ, really focus on that and focus on the major themes of that unit. I forgot which unit that one's in. But just focuses on those units that are in that time frame. That would really benefit you on DBQ.
I was gonna say, Eli, if we could get to switch the slide. Just switch the slide, because I'm thinking you probably, because you can either DBQ or you have the SAQ stuff still up on the board.
Oh yeah, I do, don't I? I'll just give this to you for now. That's why I'm gonna keep
Oh my
forgetting.
gosh, I get privilege. I get the privilege.
You get the power.
Then I'll make you forgetting this. Okay, so for the LEQ, focus on, that's gonna make you choose between a variety of events from the time periods of either 1491 to 1800 for option 1, 1800 to 1898 for option 2, or 1890 to 2001 for option 3. So I'm pretty sure from mine, I think I did more of the Gilded Age one for the APUSH exam.
Okay.
And I nailed that one.
That's cool.
And that's because that's gonna lead to another point of mine, to really focus on one point for this LAQ. Know which time period you're gonna go for, and really study up on that part.
Yeah, if you feel very strong on like a certain part, like, if you're very strong on a certain category and you really understand that time period for like those 3 options, just use the one you're familiar with. It really makes such a difference. Like for me, I was more of a, American Revolution, that kind of time period, Hamilton. Like I understood all of that category, so that's the one I went for, that kind of time period, because I knew I could just.
That was more Gilded Age.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the person. Yeah.
You can definitely tell when you're prepared for that. When it feels like you're ranting on the exam, kind of, you're prepared for it.
Definitely.
Because I don't know if you guys are gonna have this in the presentation, but I guess I would have 2 questions just with this part of the exam. How much of the reading, writing, planning 15-minute window did you use before starting to type? And then I guess the follow-up question is, did you start with the LEQ first or the DBQ first, I guess between the 2 of you?
I did LEQ first.
I did
personally.
DBQ first.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. Also, the prompts.
Yeah.
I feel like whatever prompt you're more comfortable with. I did.
Yeah.
I think I went the hardest to easiest because the DBQ
Yeah.
had all of the information. So I did it that way. I did hardest with you had to just brain dump on the LEQ, where that's what I did.
Yeah, I just got the DBQ out of the way first because that would take a lot of time.
Mhm.
And then LEQ, I knew everything about it. I got done in like 25 minutes.
Really? Wow.
Because I know the other thing too is different from just last year compared to previous years is that it was online.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that probably saves some time just because you're typing and you can type faster than you can handwrite.
Yeah.
Okay. Because did you have a lot of time, I guess just with this section in particular, do you guys have a decent amount of time to kind of look back at your essays and kind of review, or is it just hey, you kind of went and once you were done kind of
I
thing?
just accepted my fate and clicked submit. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, especially with that being the last part of the exam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yep. Oh, wait, Molly's got a question over here, you
I
guys.
have a question. So if you, let's say you start with your DBQ. Oh, good. Other side.
There we go.
Sorry.
So let's say you start with your DBQ and then you move on to your LEQ, and let's say you have extra time. Can you go back to see your DBQ, or once
I
you
believe
turn
so.
it?
Yeah, because it's I think it's
in the
those
same
2
two.
boxes where you can like
Got
pick
it.
one or
There's,
the
like,
other.
question
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
you
it's-
can
Okay.
pick which one you want to do. You can go back to one or not.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
'Cause I think you should be able to.
That's what I did a lot too on the AP exam. For the last like 15 minutes I had left, I just proofread everything, made corrections, made sure everything was accurate, sure everything connected to each other.
'Cause
That's one thing to do if you have extra time.
Because I was gonna say, I know the Blue Book app, you can get into a practice exam beforehand. I don't know if you guys did that at all. I know that's an option for everybody here, so you get familiar with the platform, because we haven't been able to use that prior to this, but that'd be something to recommend so you can see the format of like what that's gonna be set up.
Did we do that up in the? Did we do that up there? I'm
Yeah.
Sure we went into it at least once.
Yeah, we went to the balcony
Yeah.
Wednesday or Thursday of like
Yeah.
next week of test week, we did that, so we'll do that next week for this group as well. Right on.
Okay. So for actually taking DBQ and LEQ, so you can either split it in between two, or you can just, if you know you can do well in the LEQ or DBQ, then take more time on the one you know more about. But in general, I think it's wise to just keep them both split on the amount of time you take. And if you have extra time, just go back to one of them. And so, for me, what I think it kind of answers your question now, I kind of followed like a 5-10-35 rule, where I took 5 minutes reading the prompt, 10 minutes actually planning for it, and 35 minutes actually writing and checking the essay. And so for the DBQ, the primary tip for nailing the DBQ is just pick 3 or 4 documents that really relate to it. I'm pretty sure you need 4.
You have to be able to earn
Or
2
get
points, yeah.
2 points.
Yep.
And then you have to know which ones really relate to it. And and focus on those completely, and know what they're trying to say as well. And incorporate them to your claim, evidence, reasoning, all that. And then for LEQ, be sure to cover all the criteria by creating a defensible claim, providing a broader historical context right after it, using at least 2 pieces of specific and relevant evidence that supports your arguments, and by explaining it. I'm pretty sure that did not say did it. Okay, oh well.
Because I was gonna say then too, just for, maybe it's more so for the DBQ side of things for you guys, maybe the LEQ rubric as well. Did you, going into the exam, like pick out what particular parts of the rubric you were gonna try to make sure to emphasize or focus on the most when it came to writing both essays? In terms of like, hey, I'm gonna make sure obviously you have the thesis, the contextualization, getting that. Was there any certain points, or is it just kind of, hey, you're writing the essay to write it and hopefully it gets to the different points for what's in the rubrics?
Personally, I felt like one of my strong suits, because I mean, I did like the whiteboard method, like that helped me personally, and so I knew a lot of like the broader context, how he was talking. So for like DBQ, I think another reason I think I like really, changed it from like you should like really like a higher passing is that, and like for the DBQ, I mean, I went off of like the prompts and stuff, but I really put it into like the broader context, the stuff that wasn't put in the DBQ, like taking the broader context of the time period and kind of going further, kind of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Excellent. All right. What to say?
Okay.
Then
Then
back to you guys.
I just made a tier list of what units to really review for. And so Unit 9, there's not much that goes on there. It's really just end of Cold War start and just the buildup of the United States to modern times. Really not too much that's happened really that the exam will actually ask you to do.
Unless
Usually
you're
it's just-
unlucky.
Unless,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, unless you get very unlucky and it might, like 1 or 2 MCQ, like probably 1 MCQ problem at most, will likely be at Unit 9. I don't think there's gonna be anything more than that. Unit 1, it's impactful, but not a lot, because it's just the beginning of it. It's most of the basic stuff, just the foundation of everything. It's always important, but it's not as important as some of these bigger concepts that are more common on the exam. Unit 2, same as Unit 1, it's kind of more the beginning steps of it. It's starting to really amp up a little bit more on the importance, but it's not exactly there yet. Unit 3 and 4, that's when it starts getting really into the big stuff, American Revolution, expansion after that, and all that stuff. That's the part you really want to know. Those are the primary like start of this type of the United States. And then Unit 5, 6, and 7, that's all of the big events. World War I, Great Depression, Civil War, all that stuff. That Gilded Age, all of those really important events that you really want to study up on, and all the important developments that were made as well. And the AP exam definitely has a lot from those 4 units there to focus on. Okay, and especially with the SAQ, DBQ, LAQ, that focuses on a lot of those prompts as well.
I'm pretty sure our DBQ was on that, right? One of those.
Yeah, I was on one of those.
Our DBQ was, so, yeah. Oh.
Good.
So you guys have timers, and then you have one of the other channels that Mr. Olhoff mentioned in the beginning. Did you find that for period 5 through 8, the other channel was better?
Well, I think Timeless History only goes till this until you have to pay.
Does it?
Yeah.
Also, I just found images that said.
Easy enough.
I'm a proud stand of Timeless History videos, so I don't know.
Trust me, guys, Corinne was teaching this to me before I even decided to take this class.
And then,
Yeah, questions on everybody? I know one I would have is just going, I know just from, I think I asked this with Liv and Natalie last year. I mean, just looking back now, is there something or anything that you wish you maybe knew ahead going into the day of the exam that now you know kind of after the fact? I know it's maybe kind of part of the presentation, but is there anything that that you'd want to share to this group that, you know, kind of as you lived it and went through the experience of taking the test that you wish you knew beforehand, before you took the test, that you now know about, I guess, if that makes sense?
yeah, it makes sense. I think, well, I mean, not like anything like crazy that would have really stood out, but it's just the fact that you can't always, like, you can't really expect what you're always like expecting. Like, if you have a prompt or like an SAQ that just you have no idea, just try putting effort into it. You know, it's a hard thing is like the buildup of not knowing what the prompts are gonna be, which is just so frustrating, kind of, because it's like it could be anything. You have the whole entire American history, and it's just kind of finding that solidarity, just like, you know, it's fine, everything's fine, you walk out, you have to do it, you're fine.
Yeah.
So that's
I
the
was
big thing,
studying
just accepting your fate.
Yeah.
There was an SAQ prompt, and was it women's suffrage, I think that
Yes,
was?
it wasn't that the propaganda one, like it was the,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, there is gonna be, kind of, you talked about, a propaganda, like a photo that you have to analyze.
If I think that's question 1, secondary
I'm not
source.
sure on that.
Or maybe it's the second one, it's either a primary,
Yeah.
there's a secondary or primary, and
Yeah,
List the
something like
choice.
that, but, because there's one with writing too, like where,
Yeah.
like as the paragraph, yeah.
yeah.
But, yeah, time management on those is definitely interesting, it's like, yeah, but,
I guess another part is also stamina. It is a very long test, 55 minutes for the MCQ.
Oh, it's 3 hours, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Without breaks.
Well, you got the 10-minute in
You
between
get-
part 1 and
yeah,
2.
yeah,
one
it's,
break.
yeah.
How many, so 3 hours, 15 minutes.
Yeah, it requires a lot of stamina when it comes to this exam sometimes.
Just like, yay, you got through the, was it 55, the first 55 questions, it's like, yay, now I gotta write 3 more, now I gotta write 3 essays.
The essays, the DBQ,
Mhm.
and LAQ, great.
Yay.
Because, yeah, like just the advice I would saw throughout and then here at the end from Caryn as well, just kind of knowing when to kind of cut your losses or, like you said, accept the fate. Like, it's easy because I would have been the same kind of way of maybe getting caught up in like, oh my God, I don't know anything, and then I'm panicking and I'm stuck on like that one question, I don't move on. Like, you don't have the time, so you have to kind of like, okay, do what you can and then move on to the next question, because if you spend too much time trying to figure out something, then you're losing time that you can't get back to get everything
Some
completed.
of the points you can't get.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's kind of like with finding your strong suits in between the DBQ and LEQ is that just, like accepting your fate. Like if you understand one of them more than the other, just start with the one you understand, because you're gonna waste your time just staring at the other one like, huh?
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
So the SAQs are the one where it's like a question and then
big jumble of text that has like 3 different questions in it.
Usually it's just, it's usually one like source or image or map or something like that, and then it's like a series of like 3 or 4 questions after that.
Is it like all in one block of text though?
I thought so. I
That's how bio is.
think
Yeah.
it is.
That's similar to bio, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say get into that Blue Book app. That's if you have a Chromebook, get into that'll help.
No, that is not a good
Mr.
thing.
Rump's not happy.
Just hope. But you know,
Yeah, I know, I heard that from him.
Last year ecology, so I'm wishing you guys not having to do ecology.
Just-
So that was
Well,
awful.
Just do better than me and pass the exam.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Ecology
did
is
not
like,
pass the
we
exam.
were the question.
Well, you
was
said
like,
you
I'm
had
I'm very much.
See,
We
you
had
were
a question about oh.
It's bio is cursed.
Tis the season. Oh, we got a question.
Well, yeah, that's like,
Well, it's because he was called.
what?
You said you wrote notes during your test, right?
Yeah.
When did you write them?
I made this like very, actually I'm gonna go back. Is there a way to go back?
You can use the wheel and scroll. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Okay. That's my holy grail. So for even before the exam, like everyone's just kind of sitting there, chilling, waiting. That's what's going through my head. Because that's how I think I did like good. Because so at the beginning I made sure to like ask like right now, am I able to write stuff down? Because I didn't want to get like not be able to, because I knew during the exam, who's got time for that? Nobody. So at the beginning, it's like you get in the room, it's like, the paper's right there. I was like, can I write my notes down? And I was told yes. So that's what I wrote. That's what I've been memorizing. So like, I just remember like certain like numbers and letters for like even stupid reasons. Like I have the 1865 to 1898. I literally have written down below the 1965 G for Gilded Age, which looks like a 6. So therefore there is a 6 in that one, so I have to remember it that way. The dumbest reasons ever.
But it works.
But you know what? It works.
The psychology is there, man. That works.
It's like, yeah, it's just like acronyms and stuff like that. Just remembering, I don't know. That's what I did. And so I wrote it down right here. So it's like, because it is in the moment, especially for like LEQ, you're given, so in the period blank to blank, what is it like, say whatever, this happened and what is the significance of this and this happening? Okay, so now you're sitting there like, A, I have this essay I have to write. B, what the heck is that time period? I looked at my handy dandy piece of paper because, I memorized it all. And then, so then you can tell kind of what happened, like what's the main concept that happened at the beginning and kind of then memorize what's happened in between. That's what I did personally, but that's how I did it.
Yeah, have your process and stick to it.
Exactly,
Yep.
that's what I did.
Know what your process is and roll with it. All right, I know bells are ringing quick, but any last questions here? All right, so I just want to be able to say